Come on. Do I sound like I'm joking? Do I sound like I'm playing? When you look into my eyes, you understand what I'm saying? Let me say it to you slowly, and it may sound scandalous.
But y'all think y'all wasn't gonna see me?
I don't think that you can handle this.
All right, once again, we are on. I am the Mojo King. He is Mike Steph, and he is with us this week. I think you probably heard it in the intro. We are Hidden Gems Football, brought to you by the 19 Media Group. I'm glad to be back after a couple of technical issues that short-circuited some of last week's episode. In this episode, part 1, we will be discussing the AFC and the important games as far as getting into the playoffs that are coming up right around the corner. Before we jump into our primary games, I'd just like to point out the Cleveland Browns are going to Baltimore to face the Ravens. Baltimore is a 20-point favorite at this point. 20 points. The line started 18. I thought that was insane. Now it's at 20 points. I understand the Browns are not good, but they are professionals. I would hope that they'd be able to cover that spread, even though I think Baltimore is clearly going to win, and it's a survivor choice. Now, first up, prime time on Saturday, the 8-6 Cincinnati Bengals are heading to Pittsburgh to face the 10-6 Steelers. The Bengals are coming in as 2-point favorites. The projected total is 48.5 points. That means Vegas is telling us that the Bengals will score 25 and a quarter, while the Steelers score 23 and a quarter. The Bengals, of course, are playing to try to get into the playoffs. They must win. Then Miami must lose, and Denver must lose. That is their only path into making it to the AFC playoffs. The Steelers, on the other hand, like I said, they have a chance to still win the division if Baltimore loses that game to Cleveland. Probably not going to happen. Pittsburgh is also still playing for seeding. The 5th seed will play against the Texans. The 6th seed will play against the Ravens. I think most of us would want to be the 5 seed in that scenario. All right, back to this game. As far as injuries, the Bengals have one huge one. Running back Chase Brown has a mild high ankle sprain. He has not been practicing all week. Although it's listed as mild, a high ankle sprain is not something that players recover from pretty quickly. Most likely, he will not play in this game. His replacement, a trade that they made about a month ago with Chicago to get Khalil Herbert, he will be their primary runner if Chase Brown is unable to play. Also on their injury list is Joe Burrow with a wrist knee injury, and T. Higgins. Both of them have been banged up for multiple weeks, but have been playing. I doubt they'd miss this one. On Pittsburgh side, cornerback Dante Jackson missed last week due to a back injury. Looks like he'll be closer to a game time decision. It's tough to be missing cornerbacks versus the Cincinnati Bengals team. Last thing before I kick it off to Mike Steph, right now, the Bengals are at a 6% chance of making playoffs, according to NFL.com. If they win this game, they'll bump themselves up to 11% chance. But if they lose, they're at 0%. So 11's better than nothing. All right, Mike Steph, tell us what you think about this game.
Before I get into everything, I like to wish everybody a happy new year. Hope everybody's holidays were great. I might as well get this on the way because I know he's probably going to be like, damn it, Mike, why are you making me have to edit all this out? Cincinnati Bengals. Yes, the Cincinnati Bengals on Saturday night. Visit Steeltown. Visit the Pittsburgh Steelers with their playoff chances hanging by a string. But they did save their season last week by beating the aforementioned Denver Broncos. So this would be the first domino that needs to fall in order for the rest of the weekend to actually make some type of sense. They still got to beat the Steelers on Saturday night to even have a chance to make the playoffs. Now, as for the Steelers, right now, the Steelers are at their lowest of lows, having lost 3 straight games and needing a win versus the Bengals in the worst way heading into the playoffs. The Steelers have played 3 elite quarterbacks in the last 3 games, and the defense has folded, so we are worried. We, as in that fan base, not I, that Pittsburgh is in for a long night against Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals passing attack. The Steelers are giving up more than 400 yards per game during this slide, going into this game against Cincinnati. Now, by the time the Steelers game starts, Pittsburgh will know if they can win the AFC North. If the Ravens beat the Browns, this game is still important, but some worry if that happens that the Steelers will take their foot off the gas. So, with all that being said, let's get to the predictions. Cincinnati is favored by 1.5 points. The over-under, the total, is 48. I'm going to go with Cincinnati because, like I just mentioned, the Steelers defense has been carved up over the last couple of weeks by 3 elite quarterbacks. And the Bengals need this game in the worst way. And if it wasn't for that notoriously slow start, I'm quite sure Joe Burrow would be an MVP consideration. And tell you the truth, if he gets them into the playoffs, he should be under MVP consideration. Not saying he should win, but neither here nor there. So I think Cincinnati is going to make this 4 losses in a row against the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be licking their wounds going into the playoffs. So therefore, I would take the Bengals minus 1.5 points. The over/under, because I think Pittsburgh is going to give us some points. Meaning, I think the Bengals are going to score some points. I will go over.
All right, for me, I have to admit, like Mike Steph, I am on the Mike Tomlin bandwagon. But still, the Bengals look like they come in on fire. The defense is looking a little bit better. I have to go with the Bengals. I think it's going to be a close game, though. So I got the Bengals -2. As far as the over/under, that's so tough. I will go with the under. I think it's going to be a 24-21 final. All right, let's move on to the second game. The 8-8 Miami Dolphins are heading to New York to face the 4-12 Jets. The Dolphins are 1-point favorites, and the projected total is 39.5 points. That means Vegas is telling us the Dolphins will score 20.25 points, while the Jets score 19.25 points. The Dolphins here need to win, and they need the Broncos to lose. Then they are in the playoffs. NFL.com says there's 11% chance of this scenario happening. Now, as far as injuries, the Dolphins have a major one. Their quarterback looks to be out for the week. Tua missed last week. He will miss this week, most likely, with the hip injury. Last week and this week, the replacement will be Tyler Huntley. Meanwhile, Tyreek Hill has a wrist injury of his own, but he's been dealing with that for a few weeks. Last week, he went over 100 yards. I am pretty sure he will be playing in this game. As far as skill positions, the Jets are looking pretty healthy. Breece Hall has been battling it a little bit himself, but he has been playing, so I assume he's playing this week as well. Mike Steph, this is your team. Who you got? Do you think the Jets can knock the Dolphins off?
It's a 4:25 kickoff between my beloved Jets, even though they get less beloved week after week after week, and one of our arch rivals, the Miami Dolphins. I'll start with the Dolphins because they're actually the only ones that are relevant in this game, unfortunately. Much to my chagrin, much to my dismay. Did you know the Dolphins, at the halfway point in Week 9, sat at the record of 2-6? However, a more favorable stretch of schedule awaited them. Tagovailoa's return played a crucial role in their resurgence. Miami has gone 6-2 the rest of the way, going back into the AFC playoff picture. Proof that it is possible to come back from the depths of misery to salvage a lost season. The same opportunity that their opponent had, but of course the results were severely different. They'll need to more than just win to make the playoffs for the third consecutive year. With Denver and the Bengals also in the hunt for the 7th seed, Miami's fate is no longer entirely in their hands. First, Miami must defeat the Jets. Given the circumstances, should be manageable. Yeah. It should be more than manageable, but this neither here there. My Jets are mired in dysfunction, and my Jets organization seems eager to put this season behind them. With the 4-12 record and having lost 6 of our last 7 games, the Jets aren't exactly a formidable opponent. Although it's a division rivalry game, this matchup, to some, lacks the intensity seen in other divisional clashes this week. Not to mention that these Dolphins beat my Jets just a couple weeks ago in Week 14 in overtime. Now, Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers will make his 241st career start Sunday, and it could be his last. Rodgers said he would decide before free agency in March on whether to play in 2025, joking that he won't need a darkness retreat this time to help his thought process. Rodgers, who is still under contract next year, 2025, said he hopes to speak with the next GM at some point to get a feel for what the organization is thinking. Almost forgot that we're on HGF, not on Salty Thoughts. Now, to the matter at hand, the Miami Dolphins are only favored by 1 on the road in a must-win situation against these pathetic New York Jets. The over-under is 39. That's crazy. Should I lead with my heart? Should I lead with my pocket? Should I lead with my head? Should I lead with my heart? That's the question. And let me say that -1, it would just be so Jets-like. It would be so Jetsian, if you will, for the Jets to actually win and mess up their draft position. So I'm going to go Jets +1. Yeah. Jets +1. The over-under, I'm going to go over because our defense still can't sniff a cold. But, matter of fact, almost forgot. I believe the game time temperature Sunday, remember, this is the 4:25 game, will be in the upper 20s with the wind chill in the teens with a possibility of snow. Why didn't I think of that to begin with? Jets, definitely +1. Over, under. Yeah.
For me, it comes down to this. Last week, the Dolphins had a gutsy and dominant 20-3 victory. Now, they were against the Browns, and we just talked about how the Browns are 20-point underdogs this week. Nevertheless, Tyler Huntley really did lead the charge here, and I was pleasantly surprised. I thought that they were going to be done. Meanwhile, the Jets were anything but gutsy themselves in an embarrassing 14-40 loss to Buffalo. This team looks like they're ready to go home. They've got cornerbacks talking about they want out of here. They're going to test free agency. This team really fell apart when they fired Robert Saleh. I didn't think it was a good firing, but I didn't expect this to happen. I didn't know how important he was to as good as they were doing, even though they were struggling at the time. But at least they weren't this train wreck. With that said, I have been warning you for weeks about these teams that are out of it. This is their playoffs. They want nothing more than to bump out a true contender. And the Dolphins here are ripe for the picking without their starting quarterback. Nevertheless, the Jets just don't seem like a team at all. Hard to see them rallying to do anything in this game. As long as the Dolphins play smart, I think that they will still win. With it being -1, obviously I'm on the Dolphins side. As far as that over-under, I expect to be under. I expect this to be a really ugly game. Dolphins winning with some field goals.
I'm Desmond Powell, host and creator of Hip to the Games, and I am incredibly grateful to announce that the show has been nominated by podcast professionals from some of the biggest networks in the industry for the chance to be named Sports Podcast Group's Best Basketball Podcast. While Hip to the Games merges the love of basketball and hip-hop, it's an honor to know that one side of the spectrum has received this kind of love. And as a fan of the show, this is a very easy way for you to show your support for Hip to the Games. You can cast your vote by visiting sportspodcastgroup.com, navigating to their drop-down menu, and clicking the awards tab to view the 2025 shortlist. There, you'll see the Best Basketball Podcast icon, where you'll scroll down and find Hip to the Games, where you can hit the like button to officially lock in your vote. Regardless of the outcome, Hip to the Games will always be about celebrating the brilliance of basketball and hip-hop's past and present. So make sure to get your votes in before January 13th as you remain such an important part of this podcast growth. I sincerely thank you for all your support.
All right, simultaneously, while the Jets-Dolphins game was going on, this game will be going on as well. The 15-1 Kansas City Chiefs head to Denver to face the 9-7 Broncos. The Broncos are listed as 10.5-point favorites with a projected total at 40.5 points. According to NFL.com, the Broncos have an 83% chance of making the playoffs. A win seals it up for them. Now, part of the reason, or the main reason, the Broncos are such big favorites are because the Chiefs are sitting some of their starters, including Patrick Mahomes, who, don't forget, he sprained his ankle a couple weeks ago, and Isaiah Pacheco, their star running back, hurt his ribs, I believe, last week. Both of them are out for the week. In addition, you would have to think that Travis Kelce won't be seeing a lot of time. DeAndre Hopkins probably won't see a lot of time. It wouldn't make much sense for Hollywood Brown to see much time since he's missed most of the season. Denver, on the other hand, is healthy, and you could be guaranteed that all of these guys will be playing. Mike Steph, what do you think? Can Kansas City upset the Broncos?
The Chiefs, as I mentioned before, has everything locked up and clinched, so they'll be resting the majority of their starters. Most importantly, Patrick Mahomes and the rest of the skill players. But there's also a good chance that Chiefs defensive tackle Chris Jones. Who? Mike Jones. Who? Chris Jones. Who? Chris Jones. Who sustained a calf strain a couple weeks ago, will be one of their veterans that'll be getting rest this week also. Credit to Kansas City, Andy and his team. Coach Sean Payton said when asked about this upcoming game, when you go 15-1, then you are afforded those decisions to rest the top players. I've been in that position where your team might need to take a break here and there. They've earned that, and that's part of the deal. For us, it's about understanding we're seeing scheme-wise and being ready to play our best game. The Broncos would clinch a playoff berth as the number 7 seed by beating the Chiefs, earning a trip to Buffalo for their postseason opener. It is possible for the 9-7 Broncos to lose against the Chiefs and still make the playoffs as the number 7 seed. That would require the Bengals to lose on Saturday and the Dolphins to lose on Sunday too. Once again, my New York Jets. Now, this spread is out of whack. It's taken into account, I guess, Denver being at home and Denver needing the game, of course, and Kansas City not playing anybody. But do you really think that Kansas City, even if they don't play anybody, they're getting blown out by more than 10 points? That's the question. I say no. I say they're going to lose this game, but I don't have the faith in Denver to really, really stomp them out. So I'm going to go Chiefs plus 10.5. The total is 40. I'm going to go under. So that's Chiefs plus 10.5. The over-under? Under.
Look, the Chiefs have no incentive to win. They're guaranteed the 1 slot. That's the reason all these backups in. Carson Wentz is not that Super Bowl quarterback that you remember back in Philadelphia. He's fallen on some rough times over the last few years. With that said, they're still the same coach. They're still the same organization. I expect them to compete more than this line is saying. I'm definitely taking the Chiefs plus the 10.5. Do I think they're going to win? No, I don't. I think the Broncos will end up in the playoffs. But I do expect the Chiefs to keep this a little bit closer than what is expected by Vegas. And along those lines, 40.5 points doesn't seem like enough to me. I think these teams will put up a couple of points against each other. So I'm going with the Chiefs plus 10 and the over. All right, Mike, Steph, take us home.
Well, people, that brings us to a very interesting edition of Hidden Gems Football. For myself and the Mojo King, I'd like to thank each and every one of y'all for making us the football podcast y'all choose to view and the football podcast y'all choose to listen to. Our next episode, we will be delving deep into the NFC possibilities when it comes to the postseason, playoff implications, if you will. So, since I'm already making Mojo's job that much harder, I'm going to end like this. I left my parlay and El Segundo. I left my parlay and El Segundo. I left my parlay and El Segundo. I got to get it. I got to get it. I left my parlay and El Segundo. Left my parlay and El Segundo. Left my parlay and El Segundo. Come on, let's go. Come on, let's go. Hidden Gems Football. Have been a part of the... Listen, it's 1:30 in the morning. Y'all think y'all was going to get the full screen? The 19 Media Group. Goodbye.
Bye! This is a 19 Media Group presentation.
What y'all think y'all wasn't going to see me? I'm the Osiris of this. Hidden Gems Football. Mother lovers. All right, my people. For all my ladies and gentlemen out there, let's take it back to the moonshine. Let's take this back to 79. Abomatomically, Socrates philosophy to high.
Once again, we are on. I am the Mojo King. Mike Steph will join us shortly. This is Hidden Gems Football, brought to you by 19 Media Group. And this is wrong. Doo-doo-doo.
Not to mention that my Dolphins, ugh, what the hell did I just say? Unfortunately, we're apart on the stream. Islands in the stream. That is what we are. No one in between. How could we be wrong? Sail away with me to another world. And we rely on together. Wanna learn.